Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about a little known light gun game from the PlayStation 1 era that's personally near and dear to my heart, and it's one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games. From the mid 1980s to the early part of the 2000s, light gun rail shooters were a staple in both arcade and home system gaming. Arguably, the genre really got its stride in the mid 1990s. Now while games like Time Crisis, Virtual Cop, and House of the Dead, among others, dominated both the home system and arcade space, some were only relegated to the home systems. Today, we'll be talking about a little known cult game published by Sony called Project Horned Owl. This game was developed by Alfa Systems, and all in all, this was a fun game. Originally, this game released in the winter of 1995 in Japan, with it releasing a year later in North America that summer. Now unfortunately, as far as I can tell, this never had a European or PAL release. So sadly, if anyone is from the EU or PAL regions, if by chance you want to hunt this game down, you only have the Japanese or North American versions to choose from. Now, to start this review, I want to touch on the artwork for this game. If you're a hardcore anime fan, you might very well recognize the style. The reason I say that is because this game's artwork was penned by Masanune Oda, better known than most as Masamune Shirow. Now this legend has some pretty well known classic anime and manga under his belt. Dominion Tank Police, Appleseed, Black Magic, and of course, the one he's most famous for, the legendary Ghost in the Shell, are just some of the few of his works. So when you look at the artwork in this game and you wonder why it's so familiar, here's your answer. The game's look is a total 90s throwback. So even though this is a PlayStation 1 game, which makes it a throwback in itself, the artwork doubles that fact. Now the story for this game was a pretty standard affair, and that's even going by 1990s standards. But when you consider that this is a light gun game, the story doesn't have to be anything too epic. The game itself takes place in a futuristic world and in a futuristic city. Now bear in mind, anything that had the subject of the future was normally a big moneymaker for entertainment back in this time. Two armored horned owl mega-using police officers, along with their extremely bossy dispatcher, are fighting against an evil organization called Metallica, led by a maniac named Flare. And that's pretty much it. Nothing really to write home about, but then again, this is a light gun game in the 1990s, so there you go. In terms of gameplay, you have three options, and they're wildly different from one another. 1. You can play this game with a PlayStation mouse. Honestly, I wouldn't blame any of you for not knowing this thing even existed. I barely remember it myself. It was pretty obscure even back in the day. 2nd, you can play with a normal controller, and that's pretty much like any other light gun game played with a standard gamepad. Or lastly, you can play the fun, cool, and quote-unquote meant to be way with the Enforcer light gun, made by Konami. In fact, one of the tragedies of this game was that it's not compatible with Namco's GunCon. Instead, Alfa Systems went with Konami's Enforcer. But it's worth noting that Alfa Systems did learn from this era with their next game, Elemental Gearbolt. But that's a story for another time. Despite that, the Enforcer is the premier way to get the most out of this game. As a whole, the game is pretty short. It only has 5 chapters, and they're of decent length and difficulty, but it's not too tough to get through. I say this game can be completed in just under an hour, give or take. Now of course, that can be made a bit easier, assuming you have a second player to join and go co-op. Now if you're into light gun games, this isn't exactly the best of the bunch. It's not bad either though. And with Masamune Shirow's artwork and design, that kinda makes it worth it. Now, if you ever want to hunt this down for the PlayStation 1, you can usually find it within the range of $70 to $120 USD. That's basically as of the making of this review. Anyway, if you want to play a PlayStation 1 light gun game that's not Time Crisis or Point Blank, here you go.